Wow, Sinatra.
Another day, another dollar. I'm saving just to be broke. They said college was serious, but my degree feel like a joke. 4 years or less, I'm sane. I got it done. No playing, just to end up at my mom's after I told her I wasn't staying. Well, here we are. No question, I'm a star. Just got some light years to travel, but it's just so far. But I'ma make it though. Make sure you get your focus right. You coming too, it's about to be one hell of a ride. Yeah, this adults and stuff is crazy. They ain't warned us about this. I'm supposed to live my best life on an unpaid internship. I'm supposed to find my husband. Everybody running game. I guess the more things change, the more they stay the same. Went from worrying about on flow to running from Uncle Sam. Now I understand why student accounts never gave a damn. Saving accounts be slipping, trying to work out, but I'm tripping. I forgot health insurance. Oh, I'm my mom's until I'm 26, so I gotta pay these student loans. That's adults with the score doing the most. That's adulting. Moving out of mom's house. That's adulting, but it's all gonna work out. That's adulting. I need a legal side hustle. That's adulting, cause these bills got me in trouble. That's adulting. Journey's course is never planned. That's adulting. Just leave it in God's hands, cause that's adulting.
Hey classmates, welcome back to another episode of the School of Life podcast. Can y'all believe that it is already May? I want to start by saying happy May. This year is flying. I have no idea where the time is going, but we're here. So we're just going to keep on trucking along, making the best of 2023. I also want to acknowledge that we are more than halfway through season 4, and I am super excited because I have some fun and new things coming for season 5. So just wanted to let y'all know that season 4 is coming to an end soon, but I will be back. Now, for those who are new around here, I normally record 12 episodes per season, and so I will do 12. I believe this makes episode 8. So you have about 4 more in this season, and then we will be switching things up. I'm not sure of the format I'm going for season 5. Like, I have some ideas, but nothing solidified. But y'all know I will definitely share once it is. So just kudos to being halfway through season 4. Anyways, today's show is for the ladies. Now, men, y'all can stay, but I just want to let you know that it's going to get really real for some girl talk today. So just know, I warned you before you continue listening. We're going to be discussing something that I feel we do a really, really good job talking around, but not about. I'm going to say that again. We talk around this topic so much, but we do not talk about it. And we blame so much of our actions, our thoughts, and our patterns on this topic. We make excuses. Child, some of us get real delusional. And you know what? I am here to call us out today with love. And I say us because I'm not just pointing fingers at you. It is a collective thing. Today we are talking about insecurities and how to control them before they control you. Before we unpack the mess, y'all know the drill. Grab your note-taking tools because School of Life is now in session. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of controlling our insecurities, let's define what an insecurity is and how we even become insecure. So an insecurity is defined as an uncertainty or anxiety about oneself, a lack of confidence, as well as self-doubt. And according to our unofficial internet doctor, WebMD, we get them, they might stem from traumatic events, patterns, or previous experiences that we have in life, social conditioning, or our local environment such as school, work, or home. In short, my personal explanation, our insecurities come from childhood trauma, period. We've talked a lot on the podcast about childhood trauma, and we've even unpacked, and I have a whole episode about childhood trauma. I believe it is episode 19, but don't quote me. I'll put it in the show notes. But it's called I Am Not My Childhood Trauma. But what I didn't explore in that episode was how that trauma then rolls over and becomes insecurities. And so we're going to talk about that today. And I'm just really excited to get into it. when it comes to childhood trauma and the effects it has on, our interactions as adults, things like how we were talked to, where we lived, our friends, places we got to go, like all of those things play a part. And people don't realize that we carry that into our adulthood, and then it begins to affect us in every way imaginable. I mean, oh my gosh, I could be here all day talking about all the ways that childhood trauma shows up, but today we're going to focus on relationships, and that is why I said this is some girl talk for the girls. So let me caveat this by saying it's okay to have insecurities. We all have them. We are all walking around with them. But the issue is that we're now adults, right? And some of us have not dealt with our insecurities in a healthy way. We haven't communicated them. Like I said at the top of the show, we're making excuses. We're blaming our actions. It's just ugly out here. It's real toxic out there for those of us who have been operating in that way. And I'll say us because I am guilty of this, especially in romantic relationships. But after coming face to face with my own insecurities a few years ago, I decided that I wanted to do better. I personally didn't like who I saw in the mirror when those insecurities kind of came to head. And so I wanted to be a better person, which is why we're having this conversation. But honestly, y'all, I didn't know that being a better person was going to be so hard. Let's talk about it. So if you are out there and you're like, girl, I be trying, I want to do better, but it's just so hard. I feel you, I am you, but you have to do better. I say it's hard because that's the only word that I could just think about to explain it. It's almost unexplainable. Like, only people who have done the work to actively check their insecurities know what I mean, because it feels unreal sometimes. Like, you are literally fighting what your brain has stored as fact versus what you currently see. So your brain has stored dishonesty, betrayal, a lack of trust. The list goes on. Your brain thinks those are the facts. Actually, those could have been the facts from experiences, a while ago. But the reality sees honesty and trust as fact based on what is currently happening. So when you are checking those insecurities and when you're in the middle of trying to decide, okay, do I give in to this insecurity? That's what you're doing. You're fighting what was versus what is. And here's an example of that. Let's say you're dating, and we're going to call your boo Joe, right? Let's say anytime you go over to Joe's house, maybe he leaves his phone in the room on a charger, because to him, he genuinely wants to have no distractions when you're over. He wants to give you all of his attention. His phone is not a priority. But you see that as a red flag and think he may be, talking to other girls based on him putting the phone in the room, trying to hide something. That's what you're thinking, right? Because maybe that's what an ex did. We're going to call your ex Tyrone, right? Tyrone used to just put his phone in the room because he had something to hide. So now in the present, you spazzing on Joe. You're going off, and honestly, that's the insecurity coming to head for no reason. Instead of having a conversation with Joe and maybe just politely asking, you just go to the left. Or how about this? Don't ask, especially if Joe has given you no sign of foul play. This is what I mean when I say your brain is fighting what was versus what is. Tyrone was, Joe is, but because you haven't put those insecurities in check, you are acting on that, and now you done ruined a good thing with Joe. And I'm gonna say something that I know a lot of guys wish they could just yell at us from a mountaintop, okay? Do not shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you what I heard, okay? It is only so many times that they're going to allow us to blame something on insecurities, right? And Lord knows it's only about one time you're going to get to compare them to what Tyrone did. So if that is you, sis, listen to me good and listen to me clear. You got one time. You don't want to ruin a good thing based on what was. So you may be thinking, okay, girl, I get it. I be trying. I want to do better, but I just can't. Like, I just have to say what comes to my mind. No, ma'am, you can do better. So let's talk about it. First, why should you even care about checking your insecurities? Well, I'm glad you asked. You should care because you should want to be the very best version of yourself. And that's not just for a relationship, that's in general, because when you are not your best, that does carry over into other areas like friendships, platonic relationships, work. I mean, you name it, it will be affected. So in general, you should want to be your absolute best. Think of it as an untreated wound. If you had a wound on your arm, let's say, and you didn't treat it and it just continued to get nasty and ugly and stinky and all the things, that's what your insecurities are looking like when you're not tending to them and checking them. So you don't want that. Secondly, you don't want to damage yourself and others in the process of being this overly insecure person. I could give many examples of myself and people I know who have done this, and I'm sure you can too, and maybe it's you who's done this as well, but you don't want to be that person who is running around ruining good things, including yourself, because you're not sure how to check the insecurities. So that's the first thing. Why should you care? Those are the reasons. Secondly, how do you check them? You may be wondering, okay, I hear you. I care to check them. I'm going to do better. How do I do that? Glad you asked. You want to acknowledge that you have them and in what areas you have them. Everyone has different insecurities for different reasons. And so only you know what those are, and you have to acknowledge that, right? After you acknowledge, you have to communicate that if you are in a relationship. So you want to let your partner know what those insecurities are, and then you want to let them know that you're working on them. You have to have an honest conversation with your partner because you need their support when times get a little rough and you may be losing the insecurity fight. Lastly, when it comes to acknowledging them, you have to communicate without comparing. So one of the most important things in having this conversation with your partner is not saying, well, I'm insecure because Tyrone did blah, blah, blah. Because he's not Tyrone. And what I told y'all, you got one time to make that comparison. And with some guys, you probably got 0 time. They're going to be out the door, okay? So make sure that you're communicating without comparing. I don't want to say put the blame on yourself, but in a sense, that's what you're going to have to do, sis. You're going to have to just take all that blame because your caring partner don't know nothing about no Tyrone. He don't care about no Tyrone, and he don't want to hear about Tyrone. He wants to hear about you and how he can support you. Now, here's the thing with communicating. You want to also be honest. You want to have an open conversation, and you want to be the one to initiate that conversation. So, perfect example, just tell your boo, you want to take him out maybe for dinner or something, and you strike up this conversation, and you never know where it may lead or how it may open the door for other honest conversations. A lot of times we may be sitting waiting for them to do that when, I'm going to be real with y'all, that may not be their role. That isn't their role, right? It's your insecurity. It's your issue. You start the conversation, okay? So, how do you check your insecurities? Acknowledge that you have them. Have an honest and open conversation without comparing your partner to your Tyrone, okay? And then lastly, what does checking your insecurities look like in action? This is probably my favorite tip to share because I am someone who has been doing this the last couple of years, and I'm gonna be honest, y'all, like I said, it's hard. It's real hard out here. But I like to share these tips because I just kind of had to learn just by being out here. No one told me these things, and so I want to be the one to tell you. So when you're checking them in action in real time, you want to first acknowledge that thought that you're having is an insecurity. And let's be real, it all starts with a thought. You're in the middle of an argument or something's not going right, and then boom, this thought comes up, right? Our normal reaction is to react to that thought. Our partner could have said something that triggered us, right? We have this thought and then boom, we're reacting to the thought and not to them. That's an issue all in itself. That's a whole nother episode. But you want to acknowledge that the thought that you are having is an insecurity. And by the way, all of this happens in like 0.2 seconds. So it has to be real quick. It takes a lot of practice. But acknowledge the thought. Second, you want to name it. Okay, and you don't have to like name it out loud or talk to yourself, but you acknowledge that the thought is there. You name, okay, that's an insecurity. Third, you want to redirect your energy. And y'all may not like me when I say this next piece, but a part of redirecting your energy may mean shutting your mouth, not speaking on it. I'm gonna just have 2 seconds of silence so y'all can let that sink in. Acknowledge the thought. Name the insecurity for what it is and redirect your energy by shutting up. Listen, everything does not require your mouth to be moving, okay? Just be quiet. Don't speak on it. That's the hardest part of the battle right there because your brain literally wants to react to what it knows as fact. But the reality is not what your brain thinks is the fact. So you need to just hush it before you ruin the reality, okay? You don't want to talk, and just make the issue worse than what it already is. Now, this work has to be done independently most of the time. I have to also say that you have to do this in those 0.2 seconds. I'll give you 3 seconds. How about that? You have to do this in 3 seconds internally because if you do it outwardly, it's almost counterproductive. So make sure that you are controlling the environment by controlling the thought. That's the first step. Like the thought has to be controlled. And then with the independent piece and handling it independent, the reason I say that is because you don't want to weigh your partner down every single time that you have an insecure thought, right? So yes, you've communicated with them and they're going to be supportive and they love you, blah, 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 blah. All of that is good, but they cannot do the work for you. When it comes time to put your money where your mouth is and practice this in real life, it takes you doing that work. Which is why I say it's independent most of the time. There have been plenty of times where a situation is happening and I get an insecure thought and literally, y'all, before I can even let it fester, I just shut it out. I shut down the thought because there have also been times where I haven't shut down the thought and then it boils over and it's a mess. Let's just call it what it is. It's a hot mess. And then an hour later, you standing there apologizing because now you sound crazy because you made something out of nothing. Y'all know how the cycle goes. I don't even have to tell you. But when you can learn to shut the thought down, when it pops up in your mind, you will begin to grow. And I won't say that you'll become a master because we're always going to be growing, but I promise you it gets easier and you start to identify, okay, this is why I'm having that thought. Let me not even put myself, in this situation, or let me communicate with my partner ahead of time. Like there's so many things that you start to kind of change for the good that helps you not to even go there mentally. So let's do a quick recap. First, you should care about checking your insecurities because you should want to be the absolute best version of yourself. You check them by acknowledging them and communicating without comparing. And then checking them in action looks like the independent work of acknowledging the insecurity and shutting your mouth, okay? Write those 3 things down because they will help you grow and they'll probably save your relationship if you want to save it. Now, I want to wrap up by saying insecurities are real, okay? This is not something to be taken lightly. I get it. Like I've done episodes about, things I've been through and how my childhood has affected my adulthood and all the things. I get it. I promise you I could be the poster child for all of this. So they are real and they are a real struggle. But if we want to operate at our best and have strong, healthy relationships, we have to check them. Checking the insecurities are hard. I also acknowledge that. But we got this. We can do it. Just like we can do anything else we put our minds to, we can do this. We have to make it our personal mission to prioritize checking those insecurities, or else we're going to end up single and alone with 50 million cats. And you don't want that. And you don't want to be in a relationship where people have to tiptoe around all of your insecurities. Okay, maybe one or two here and there, okay? And really just one. But that's not a healthy relationship either. So all of these things are so important when thinking about, how you want to show up in a relationship. Those insecurities, they're going to come to head, but you have to be committed to checking them at every turn. All right, y'all, before we get out of here, y'all know what time it is. Homework. So this week, the homework is simple. If you struggle with insecurities, I want to challenge you to check yourself at least one time this week. Just one. You can do one, sis. I know you can. And if you are a guy and you stayed to the end of the episode, kudos to you. I also want to challenge you because guys have insecurities too. Of course, I can't speak on, the types of things that guys deal with because I'm not a guy. But I know every human being has insecurities. And so, boom, you got homework too, bro, since you stayed to the end of Girl Talk. Check yourself at least once this week. And if you're feeling like it, leave me a voicemail letting me know how your checkup went. I would love to hear from you. You don't have to give me all your business. If you want to, that's cool too. But I would just love to hear from you to hear how you're growing and challenging yourself to be a better person. All right, friends, that wraps up another episode of the School of Life podcast. As always, I hope you learned something new or gained some sort of new life insight because that is why this podcast exists. Listen, we're all in this together, insecurities and all. Keep fighting, keep pushing, keep evolving. Talk to you soon.
Gotta pay these student loans. That's adults with the score doing the most. That's adults and moving out of mom's house. That's adulting, but it's all gonna work out. That's adulting. I need a legal side hustle. That's adulting, 'cause these bills got me in trouble.